Good evening. Good evening. How are you all doing? Can you imagine looking at everybody from the outside wherever you're at? So you have a view from the outside, but within organizations, within your families, within your communities, your churches, your teams, when we only can look from the outside to the systems that are designed to protect, uplift, guide us, evolve us. If we're looking from the outside and we can't do anything about it, this is part of the reason why we see people running on fumes or quietly falling apart behind the scenes. I want to come to you all and talk about what happens when systems stop working for the people within them. Over the past week, I was in Facebook jail. I couldn't post. I couldn't go live. I couldn't comment, but I could see everything that people were posting, what they were sharing, commenting on stuff that I posted, whether it was inspirational, asking questions, and there was nothing I could do about it. So, watching from the outside, I started thinking about how this shows up in systems too. And when it shows up in systems, we start having conversations about capacity. Okay, and who those systems are actually built to serve. So, when I think about being in Facebook jail, I know a lot of people who've been in it, but also I know a lot of people who have not experienced this. Social media has become our way of connecting with people, doing launches, one way I should say, job searching, resources, all of that. But if we look at the bigger issue, it's not a joke. It can be a major inconvenience for people's lives, whether it's being in Facebook jail or locked out of systems that are designed to support you or who claim to support you. And so I wanted to just name that. I'm going to call this a system imposed removal. I didn't have a hearing, there was no dialogue, a flag got raised, and a line they claim I crossed caused this, and a decision was made without me. You're out. That's it. They kept moving. The people I'm connected to kept moving. People kept engaging, but I couldn't. And so I'm watching all of this from a window that I can see through, but I can't even open it. So again, I want to name something that's ironic here. I show up consistently online. I contribute thoughtfully within my community as well as other communities. I'm careful about the language I use so this did not happen, or I don't get kicked out of a platform where I know I'm creating transformation in people's lives. I have built a community on this platform. I know, build off. I get that, which I had a backup plan. But yet, the system still removed me without nuance, without context, without conversation. This is not just a Facebook story. This is a system story, historical, generational. And this is what it's like to live inside of those systems, or in my case, be on the outside. When I think about what the view from the outside actually looks like, I think about my time in working in corporate healthcare. It was a time where there were certain rules for certain people. There were times where I could see things happening, but there was nothing I could do about it. Just like on Facebook, I can see every post, every thread lighting up, people sharing wins, celebrations, announcements, conversations happening in real time. So, a community that I helped build that was active and alive, but in that moment, I had no symbolic voice. So when I think about my time working in corporate healthcare, I saw all of these things happening, people getting promotions, people getting placed in roles where other people earned to be there. We saw discriminatory practices, but yet they say when you have something to say, speak up. So when you do, you get chastised or you get locked out. Some could say in those moments, if you've ever been in those situations, you're present, you're existing. but some people feel powerless. They're visible but silenced. When we think about what this does psychologically, it creates a peculiar kind of dissonance. You're like, I know I belong. I know I didn't do what they accused me of. And me, when I was working in healthcare, I was too intimidating. And I was like, I just showed up and existed. I hear people saying, well, that policy doesn't help me be a better worker. It actually continues to disenfranchise me. And so you're now being accused of things because you didn't fit into the mold. So you might feel like you belong. You probably didn't do what they accused you of, but the system had already decided. There's no appeal process that actually feels human and like they actually care about you. I hear these stories time after time, whether it's in my therapy practice or when I go into organizations to work with their teams and level leaders. Okay. There is no explanation that holds up to why people feel like there's this dissonance, a disconnect between, well, you say I'm a part of this system, but you treat me like everything but. They're just removed, demoted. They leave the job with no exit interview. And the expectation that you'll just wait it out, it'll get better. And then the people that stays there, they come back and they got to pretend like nothing happened, like being excluded from the system they help build, sustain, and grow and evolve, just adapt right back like nothing happened. That is the gap between what I know to be true about people and what the system declares about them. That's where the real conversation starts. Why is there this disconnect? As I'm getting ready and preparing for an upcoming keynote, as well as same day Q&A, as well as a roundtable discussion in front of hundreds of individuals, where I'm going to be in the room with healthcare providers, service providers, and consumers of those services. And I am tasked with facilitating conversation about how to build trust. And this very thing that I'm talking about are systemic issues where there's a dissonance between what the system is designed for, what they say they will do, and what is actually really happening. That's the gap. And that's where the conversation has to start, but there has to be action taken based on the data collected from those conversations. So I want you to ask whoever your audience is, whatever role you show up in the world, has a system ever made a decision about you that did not match what was best for you, whether it was at work, at church, family unit, community, relationship with your therapist, or whatever platform you're on? Has a system ever made a decision about you that didn't match up to who you are and what they said they were designed for? Okay. And if you're listening, I want you to go ahead and drop what's coming up for you. Have you ever been in that predicament before? Let me know. Okay. And so something else I want to talk about as it relates to being in Facebook jail was being kicked out with no regard. Remember, it's part of a bigger system issue, but I saw this as a symptom. This wasn't an isolated incident. When I think about the people I'm connected to who are doing really good work to help heal and move people forward during social chaos, they are the ones that are being silenced. When people are like, oh, the algorithm. No, it's not that. It's suppression of voice. So this wasn't an isolated incident. It just had not happened to me. And all the time I've been on Facebook since college, probably. So what happened to me on Facebook, that wasn't a glitch. It is a symptom of something bigger. Now let's translate this to the systems. Systems that have exhausted their members, they don't just suddenly start collapsing. People don't suddenly start burning out. They don't suddenly start taking all these extended leaves. So there's no collapse that's this dramatic out of the blue. This is where people are deteriorating quietly. They're falling apart behind the scenes, which is what I go into organizations to help them navigate. Give people realistic tools of how to rebuild their capacity and evolve it within what they have. And so when people are deteriorating quietly, systems start substituting rules for relationships. Algorithms become the justification over accountability. Well, that's not how it's set up. Well, what is the thing that's going to hold you accountable? Automated responses to open door policies become actual care for their people. And eventually, the people inside of them stop mattering as individuals because they just become variables or number. Okay. They become data points, flagged accounts. These are symptoms of a system that has exhausted its members. Okay. One, I know I automatically think of when people get to that point, participation starts to feel very performative. People are just showing up, but they're not really present. They may show up, but you do not see the dysregulation within their body. So they're performing just to get through it. They're going through the motions because the cost of disengaging feels higher than the cost of staying. They post, they may respond, they may laugh, they may attend meetings, but there is nothing generative actually happening. This is when I see systems running on fumes, and they call it we're functioning at our highest capacity. At whose cost? The second thing that I draw from systems where the symptoms become an exhaustion point for their members is that the rules protect the systems more than the people in it. Let that one sit. The rules protect the systems more than the people in it. Right now, you all, when I'm working with organizations and even mental health professionals who are building speaking businesses to work with those organizations, we know people are in a trust recession. So if the same systems that say you want to see me grow, you want to pour into me as an employee, you want me to contribute valuable information, the rules are protecting you more than it's protecting me. You're creating policies that continue to cause harm versus using good sense and asking ourselves, why is this even a thing if it's harming majority of our people? This is critical because we see it in policies, we see it in procedures, we see it in consequences of a system where it is designed primarily to protect the institution rather than restore and support the real people that's doing the work. If it has gotten to that point, that system has lost its way. So, Facebook, Facebook's flagging system, it's not built to protect me. It's not built for freedom of speech. It's not built for the things that's actually going to heal us as a community. It's not designed for that. They don't care. It's built to protect Facebook. I own it, I get it, or I respect it and I get it. It is their system and I have to play by their rules or move around. Okay? So that's the distinction worth naming out loud. The rules protect the systems more than it protects the people in it. And so when organizations bring me in and say, hey, we need better team cohesion, or we need our people to be well, we need better well-being, culture, I always say, let's talk about the rules you have in place that you are governing your people with. Okay? The third thing that comes up when I just think about symptoms of a system where their people just feel really, really exhausted is when people get removed, demoted, dismissed, disregarded, microaggressed. The removal becomes the default consequences instead of having dialogue. Who is this unique person in front of me? Have I contributed to a lack of psychological safety? What is my degree of emotional intelligence where I'm aware, I can engage, I'm motivated to do differently? And so people just start removing, they start firing, they start letting go. That's the default to a system that is not designed, one, to uphold and hold people accountable, because people are creating the systems that are doing the harm. We see it on a global scale. Open your eyes. And so when that removal becomes the default instead of actually dialogue, conversation, correction, Those are some of the parts that make up healthy systems. It creates space for those conversations. It creates space for that correction. And then through ongoing efforts, paradigm shifts, disruption in a good way, we really get to see people and organizations start to restore or redefine how they're going to operate going forward. Yes? But when systems are exhausted, the people in the systems are exhausted. They skip all of that. No, you can go. No, we don't need them. It's easier to remove, suspend, silence, and sideline people than actually engage with the complex human in that situation. It's easier to say, "Oh, you didn't bring a brochure, not a brochure, but the funeral uh, brochure." I can't think of the name. Bring our policies. You have to prove that you were at a funeral, then prove the relationship. Instead of seeing this real human being who have given you years, you're going to use a policy at a time where they are hurting the most because it's easier than the dialogue. And so when routine removal becomes routine, whether that's firing, excommunicating, ghosting, sending somebody to Facebook jail, the system has stopped believing in the people inside of it, but yet they want you to be productive. So if you are a decision maker, if you are a leader or an employee, start asking yourself, what role are you playing in all of this? Which of these three that I listed, whether it is participation starts to feel performative, the rules protect the system more than it protects the people, and removal becomes the default consequence instead of dialogue. Which of those three are you watching happen in a system that you're a part of right now? I want you to ask yourself, I want you to interrogate that. And I get it. Many people are in certain roles and it's costly to speak up. I get that. I get that. So, therefore, the onus comes with how am I going to take care of self if they are not invested in me? I don't do toxic positivity. I don't minimize how hard that is, but that's your response and that's your responsibility to yourself. Because when we think about it, exclusion is a wellness issue. Being excluded, and yes, even digitally, it's not a small thing. This is our world. So belonging is not a preferential thing, it is a fundamental human need. And if anyone does not get that, you have to ask, are they for me? Do they really stand up to their mission? Are they bringing Dr. Dominique Pritchett in for a checkbox, or are they genuinely invested in seeing us grow as people that's contributing? So when we think about some of the research that's done on social exclusion, it consistently shows that when we are removed from communities, especially abruptly or dysfunctionally, even if it's temporary, it activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. So when people say that emotional pain hurt, I feel it in my body. Sometimes your brain cannot distinguish between being left out of a group or being left out of a tribe. So the group chat can feel like this, or just being left out of the whole community can feel like that, but it can still feel the same. So when our systems operate on punishment over restoration, when the default is removal then repair, they are creating real psychological harm. But they brought somebody in to help them define and evolve a sense of psychological safety. But everything is contradicting that. Even when the exclusion from groups, chats, or environments, even when that exclusion feels minor on the surface, think about how the cumulative effect of being repeatedly flagged, overlooked, microaggressed, sidelined, and pushed out by systems you're invested in, how significant that is. It fits into that language of 1,000 paper cuts. It erodes trust, it depletes capacity versus evolves it. It makes people question whether they belong anywhere, whether it's your family, your relationship, church, community, or your job. So I started off talking about how Facebook, had me in jail for a week, aka I could not post, I could not engage, I couldn't like, I couldn't love nothing, couldn't celebrate. Okay. This is not a Facebook conversation. This is about a systemic and wellness conversation. This is a faith community conversation. This is a family systems conversation, a cultural conversation. Everywhere there are systems, there are people quietly exhausted by them and wondering if the problem is them. You wondering if it's you, and it's how systems have been designed. So perhaps you play a part into that, but it's rarely the weight falls on you. So I want you to be able to name it. If you've ever felt like you were doing the right thing and you still got pushed to the side, your wellness response to that is valid. I like to think it was dysregulated. You were pissed, you were angry, whatever came with it was valid. That's not a weakness. That's not, oh, you're not playing the game right. That is a human reaction to exclusion. So for me, when I was in Facebook jail, my capacity for what I still needed to do didn't go anywhere. My voice didn't shrink. I didn't lose any parts of me. I may have lost, a week of connection. My ideas didn't stop. My expertise didn't pause. So that system may have limited my access, but it could not touch what I actually carry outside of that system. That distinction is everything, because so often when systems try to exclude, when they do and try to exclude us, we internalize that exclusion as the verdict of our worth. Whew. Let that sit. When systems try and do exclude us, we internalize that exclusion as a verdict of our worth. We start to believe that, hey, that system flagged me. Maybe we did something wrong. Maybe too much. We took up much the right fit, not the right color. Maybe we should make ourselves smaller so it doesn't happen again. Sounds familiar? That is such a dangerous response to an exhausted system, and that system is your body. So shrinking to fit inside something that was never designed to hold the capacity that you have, that's not a solution. Okay. So when I was in Facebook jail, the view from the outside gave me something that the outside couldn't: clarity. And it was actually okay to be out of that social media platform for a while. It's a lot that happens there. And so, but being on the outside, it gave me clarity. I could see what was moving, what was staying still. I could see who really was engaging and who was performing. I could see the gaps in the system, or I could see gaps that the system wasn't addressing. So when you are on the outside, figure out what you're going to do with that stance. The outside view is a lot of information. You can get swept up in the tornado of being on the outside and seeing it as a punishment, or you can use it as data to figure out what is your next move. So I want you to ask yourself, what have you been able to see more clearly when perhaps you were outside of a system that didn't want you on the inside? What could you see more clearly? And also, what did that clarity cost you to receive? Double question. So I'm going to wrap up, but this was my first live after, being in Facebook jail. So I'm back. I'm here, not because the system fixed itself. I want to be very clear about that. I'm not here because the system fixed itself. Sure, they let me go. They let me go, no probation at 3:17 p.m. I am back here because my capacity was never actually in the system's control. I had options. Okay. Systems evolve or they lose people. When I'm working with organizations, I tell them that's not a threat. Either you evolve or you lose people. Okay. It's not a threat. This is a pattern that we have seen time after time. History always repeats itself until the system does something differently to prioritize its people. Okay. The systems that refuse to grow, that protect themselves over the people inside of them, to rules for relationships, they eventually find themselves full of people who are physically present, but spiritually and relationally gone. Okay. Or those, they find themselves empty. So when I'm working with organizations, I go into companies where there have been massive layoffs. I go into companies where there's been change turnover with leadership, management, teams, huge resignations. I go in at those points for many people. Okay. So sometimes you can look at being on the outside as a failure, or I wonder if it's the beginning of something that the system was never going to uh, give you time and space to heal if you were on the inside. So during my week off, I focused on a little bit more on some other platforms, which I probably could have been spending more time on anyways, but I was able to tighten things up at home. I was able to tighten things up in my Amplify Academy, my coaching program for mental health professionals. I was able to reach out to a few partners whom I've done previous work with just to check in with them. Sign some contracts of engagements I have coming up. It gave me enough clarity to chill. So the view from the outside, I don't like to think of it as it's not a waiting room. It's for those willing to look clearly. It is a vantage point. You got to see it as that. So I want to leave you with this. Is the system you're in helping to evolve your capacity, or is it exhausting it? And what are you going to do with the answer you tell yourself? If this topic is sitting with you, don't let it live in the the comment or chat section. Don't keep it to yourself. I need you to get me in touch with the decision makers within your organization, whether it's your company, your conference, your community, your church. Get them in contact with me. I need you to come deeper. Let's partner. Okay. Whether you want to book me for a speaking engagement, a training, or consulting opportunity, you know where to find me, Dominique. Also, if you're a mental health professional looking to turn your session wisdom into transformational speaking services for organizations who may be navigating the very similar things I talked about, let's chat too. You can catch me there at speaktothesoul.com/connect. So if you want to book me, go to dominiquepritchett.com. If you're a mental health professional, go to speaktothesoul.com. So you all, this is my first day out of jail. I'm about to go get a good meal and go spend some time with my love bugs. And I hope you all have a great evening. Peace.